Previously on Fondling Cardboard.
I get taken aback sometimes when there's negative connotation to what I do. I don't really understand it. Is it because certain people are just old school and they don't like change? The way that I was treated in general as someone trying to learn and trying to purchase sports cards did make me want to leave the hobby. And so part of the reason why I have the mission that I have right now to help people make money flipping sports cards is so they don't leave the hobby. Why were you personally, to try to use your own words, like resistant?
That's a really loaded question, but that's exactly where we needed to go. Why did I have this negative connotation about investing in flipping?
Ridiculous, Fondling Cardboard.
What is up? Welcome back to Fondling Cardboard. I'm your host, Mike Lakusta, aka the Golf Card Collector. And we are back to share part 2, the finale, let's say, of the collector versus investor conversation. Are Paul Hickey and Mike Lakusta hobby friends or enemies? Can we settle our differences? But first, as you can tell, I am feeling so much better. Last week was pretty rough. The whole family had sickness. I was also healing up from some other medical situations, and I'm just so grateful to be healthy right now. Next week, we're going to be talking about some really, really great topics. We're going to be sharing some takes and a little bit of context about Scotty from some podcasters that I have mad respect for. I'm going to be talking about some grading trends that I noticed on my recent PSA return. I've got a story to share about a Greg Norman card and what I did to fix my blunder. I've got an update to share next week, hopefully on a 1927 Bobby Jones card that was seized by U.S. Customs. And, well, I guess I won't share an update right now. We'll talk about it next week. Then we're going to do a quick check-in with friend of the show, James Peacock, and I'll be answering a few mailbag questions that everybody's been patiently waiting for. I just want to mention it now because I don't have time to answer all those questions today, but I will get to them next week. As I said, today we are going to be getting back to the conversation with Paul, and I can't wait to jump into it. But first, some updates on the Masters pool from a couple weeks ago. I've got data to share on the cost and return, the final numbers. I'll start with a little bit of detail. So first place, 1997 Grand Slam Ventures, Tiger Woods SGC 9. I had that one valued at $225 or about $300 Canadian. Second place, 1996 Sports Illustrated for Kids, Tiger Woods SGC 3.5, valued about $200 US, maybe 270-ish Canadian. Third place, 2005 Upper Deck SP Signature Tiger Woods Patch Card, $65 US, $88 Canadian, thereabouts. I had about $108 in consolation prizes from 4th place through 32nd place, about 146 Canadian. And then we get into the draw prizes. So John Rahm Sports Illustrated for Kids PSA 7 rookie card, about $50. Patrick Reed autographed Augusta scorecard, $40-ish. Will Zalatoris Retro Red Precious Metal Gems, $45. And then a bunch of other draw prizes. Rookie patch auto, autographs, another precious metal gems, serial numbered out of 10 rookie card, dual patches, a bunch of stuff. I valued that at about $52 US. In terms of shipping, my costs came out to about $67 for tracked packets. That's for the high-end placed prizes, and then stamped. I just sent letter mail for the lower consolation prizes. All in all, that came out to about $111 US, 150 Canadian. So all said and done, just a hair under $900 US I put into this pool, just over $1,200 Canadian. And what I returned out of 31 entry fees at $20 each Canadian, so $620 Canadian, plus tips, so that's about $460 US, $110 tips, so $81 US. So all in, I received a return of $541 US for a return of $896. Or in Canadian, that's a return of $730 for an investment of $1,209. I think you kind of get the picture here. At the end of the day, that is a negative 66% margin. And at the end of the day, I'm okay with it. I'm not really in this for the money. Some consolation prizes were just base cards. So hopefully your recipients understand, and I had about $20 included in there to just cover all the base cards. So even if I factored the $21 out, I'm really not making money on this. And it doesn't even factor in the countless hours of programming the leaderboard, writing post round updates and communicating with participants. And so it's really not an efficient way to make money in the hobby, but I enjoyed it. I had fun, and I think I'll do it again. So thanks to everybody that joined and others who could be interested. Keep your ears out on the Instagram, and that's at Fondling Cardboard and at The Golf Card Collector. And check out the Facebook group, because there'll definitely be posts in there. That's Golf Cards and Memorabilia. And as for those prizes, they were just shipped out yesterday, and I learned some efficiencies, let's say, when it comes to packaging and shipping. I really like to reuse packaging. It just feels so wasteful to throw them away. And I'm not just talking about bubble mailers that I receive cards in. Yes, of course I'm talking about those. But I also mean Amazon packaging, UPS, FedEx, those kind of bubble mailers when I get them. Most people just toss them in the recycling. And at the end of the day, I just don't like that. And it's also nice to save on the cost of materials. One trick that I use is to have just a simple, plain, flat envelope, and I use the recycled packaging from Amazon to act as the bubble protection. So then I'm only buying plain envelopes, and I kind of make my own bubble mailers. And I've noticed that not a lot of other sellers do it this way, and I've always wondered why. After packaging 34 shipments, which doesn't sound like a lot, but I promise it is, I've realized that it takes hours upon hours to fulfill a batch of shipments without having a standard shape and size of package and a quick process for addressing and sealing. I think at the end of the day, having a process is definitely what I'm learning the most out of this. So I think I will host pools again for the other majors, at least for the next one, the PGA. And yeah, I hope that you guys liked the cost transparency and breakdown, and I hope to see you there next month. All right, thank you for sitting through that. And as a treat, here's the finale of the conversation, collector versus investor. I'm calling it finale, but at the end of the day, I think Paul and I are going to have a lifetime of hashing out our differences. But anyways, here we go. That's a really loaded question, but that's exactly where we needed to go. Why did I have this negative connotation about investing and flipping? And I might open a can of worms right now within myself. So I'm kind of excited to go here. And so try not to take offense to anything I say here. Let's just hash it out because we're friends here. But I think ultimately it came down to the motivation. So for a collector, the motivation is to have fun. It's to escape from the stresses of reality, to connect with people and do all these sorts of hobby things. And for people to come in with just pure financial motivation, it feels like our passion is being threatened, it's being monetized, and it's being taken advantage of. As you said, though, the collectors are probably the best ones at flipping and making money, and so it seems like that's not fair for a collector to have that mindset. But the first kind of analogy that popped into my mind is when you say that we're doing the same thing and that a collector is actually the best flipper and investor. To me, that's like saying that somebody at the IRS is the best at committing fraud. Sure, they have all the knowledge, they have the tools, but they would be taking advantage of that knowledge at someone else's expense. However, that's not a fair analogy because investor flippers are completely legitimate participants in the hobby. They're not doing anything illegal. It's just that's kind of that was the first thought that popped into my mind, and I should probably squash that thought because that's not fair. Everybody can participate in the hobby the way they want to do it. Maybe a more fair analogy would be like a tech entrepreneur being told, hey, you know everything about the industry. You'd be the best at investing in tech companies. And that entrepreneur just says, I want to build my business. I want to focus on engineering. I'm a tech guy. Just leave me alone. Let me focus on this thing that I'm passionate about. I don't need to be an investor. I don't need to be flipping stocks or investing in companies. So I don't know if that explains where my mindset was when I I have that negative mindset. And I'll let you respond to that in just a second, but I want to share some flip side as well that you might appreciate. The hobby purists can often be no better. Like they can have this higher than holy mindset. And I think maybe I just showed that I had some of that. And it's not okay to be unaccepting of others and their approach to how they want to have fun in their hobby, or in your case, you do this full time, creating content about the hobby, growing awareness of it. So, the collectors who have those automatic thoughts like I did, that's not okay to put others into a box comparing you to fraudsters. So what do you think about all that, Paul?
Yeah, well, I appreciate you a lot. I mean, you and I have become really good friends, and I think it says a lot about people in the hobby. Like, I think you and our relationship is a great example of like what the hobby should be. We're a success story because I think what you said was alludes to a lot of what goes wrong, right? There's a lot of friction, a lot of people digging their heels into what they believe is the right thing. And I think that that's one of the things I love about our audience at the Sports Card Strategy Show and at nooffseason.com is that everyone pretty much is very accepting of what everyone else is doing in the hobby. And there's a lot of people doing a lot of things. We've mentioned, breaking. We've mentioned ripping for personal enjoyment. We've mentioned buying singles and going after grail cards and PCing, and everybody at the Sports Card Strategy Show, and I think probably Fondling Cardboard, participates in a lot of great aspects of the hobby, going to card shows, going to, supporting local card shops and things like that. So I think I want to say that first of all, I think I'm starting to see that, and this is my philosophy kind of in everything in life, is that you really can't change people. You have to accept what you like about each individual person in your relationship with them to continue to build that relationship. And so there's one thing you said that I think will always resonate with me, and you're not the first and you won't be the last person to kind of say these words in this way. You said that fun and enjoyment and escapism is why you're in it, and your take on why I'm in it and people like me are in it is financial gain. And the question I want to ask everyone, including you, is how much money do you guys think I make doing this? Like, how much money do you think I used to make? And how much money do you think I make leaving what I used to make to do this? Because I don't need to get into numbers, but I'll just tell you, like, I make about a quarter of what I could be making doing this. And the reason I'm doing this is for fun, fulfillment, escapism, because the rest of life is effing hard. So I want to say that to everybody. You don't know everyone that you think you know. You think you know me, and you place this label on me of being in it for financial gain when I position myself as I am here to help you make money flipping sports cards, because my experience is that it's darn hard to make money doing anything. And so I don't make anything near what I could be making doing this job. I effing love it. So it is escapism for me. I've made the choice in my life to make less money. I've talked to my wife about it for years to try and make this happen. So I didn't get to the point, and I'm not putting out YouTube videos about I made $1 million flipping sports cards and leaving my full-time job, because that's not accurate. The real story is that I want to be doing this and I'm making a lot less money than I used to make. And if I really were in life for financial gain, I would be like a lot of people outside the hobby that make way more money than I make, could buy whatever sports card they want to buy, but look at all of us and go, what are you guys doing with all that stuff? So I just want the hobby to be a place where people don't necessarily judge each other. I have never felt judged by you. I have never felt judged or that you don't respect what I do. I just think while we're having this conversation, it's interesting to kind of unpack that, because I do think that a reason why yourself and some of the other content creators that I have a ton of respect for, that like I won't name them by name. I already talked about Iowa Dave, and there's a ton of guys that like I've been on their shows and I love all of them, and like we have mutual respect, but I think that they're like worried about me. Like they're like worried about me because like I'm going to be attacked by all these people in the hobby. I haven't really been attacked. It's when I talk to people that identify, it's when I talk to anyone who sort of projects negativity on making money in the hobby, is when I feel like, oh yeah, I forgot that people like actually think that this is weird what I do, if that makes sense. But yeah, I think like the thing I want to underscore throughout all of that though is that like, and I've been asked this on other shows, is like, why do you do this instead of collecting? The answer is like, I love this. This is what I love about the hobby. Scotty, I love that you can come in and you can be like, okay, I think Arch Manning is gonna, like, I think his cards are gonna increase in value. So I'm gonna go out and spend, $1,000 on Arch Manning cards. And I'm gonna set a goal of selling them in September 2024 or December 2024 or whatever. I don't think there's anything wrong with loving that or liking that. So I guess that's my response to the whole like who's to say what fulfills someone is right or wrong. It's kind of interesting because I was just about to say, unless you're committing a crime, which is what you compared it to for a second, and then you pulled it back. I'm like, whoa, he's comparing it to committing tax fraud. Like I'm an entrepreneur. I have to pay quarterly estimates ahead of time to the IRS to the, which makes it even harder to financially live in the world.
Let me give some more context to that. So when people think of investor flippers, they think of the height of the pandemic, the height of the sports card bubble. Retail flippers were rampant, and people saw this category of hobby participant that I will call flippers as threatening their livelihood, basically saying, oh, you want this blaster that's $35 retail? I'm sorry, it's $90. No, that's the market price. Well, I know that collectors were thinking, if you just mess off, I would be able to go to Walmart and buy it myself for $35. And I don't even know, I think it's legal to buy something at Walmart and then to sell it on Facebook Marketplace, still sealed, on still in its original packaging. I think it's legal, but is it gray area? I don't know. And so I think part of my stigma and probably others was that, I lumped everybody who just focuses on investing flipping into that category. But you brought up fantasy sports and the correlation between what you do and the fulfillment you get out of playing fantasy and being a GM of your own team. And I can really relate to that because, I host a golf pool, a master's pool with my friends and family. And I get that same feeling, I don't do it to make money. I just do it so that we can have a good time and have something to feel some thrills about and talk about and have a group message. And, somebody does end up with a prize, which is fun. And so I can definitely relate. And I guess speaking of illegal stuff, that's probably less legal than buying something at Walmart and flipping it. So, you always have to look in the mirror before judging someone because, as you said, everybody's entitled to do what makes them feel fulfilled as long as it isn't taking advantage or illegal. Speaking of the pool, this isn't an ad or anything because I'm sure we're going to be releasing this well after the Masters, and so the pool will have ended. We will have had a lot of fun and gave away some neat prizes. But one of the things I'm doing is starting a golf cards and memorabilia pool. I'm actually calling it the Fondling Cardboard Masters Pool, and there was a lot of interest. I had over 30 or 40 people express interest in joining, so I hope they all do. And basically, there's obviously an entry fee, but rather than pooling the money together and cashing out prizes, I get to keep the money and I'm giving out a big card. I think it's going to be maybe the Tiger Woods Sports Illustrated for Kids or the Tiger Woods Masters Collection rookie card in an SGC 9 rare grade, something like that to the winner, as well as 2 or 3 big, consolation prizes for second, third, fourth place. And then every other participant is also going to get a prize. So Tiger Woods cards, rookie cards, autographs of current golf stars, and it's kind of a way to spread the hobby for me to offload some of my bulk because I have so many cards. And so I'm not going to mince words. I'll be honest about that. I definitely am treating it that way and to kind of, I guess, make some money. So, me participating in these fantasy sports pools and leagues and stuff, like how is that different than your daily activity of, buying a card and selling it and trying to make a little profit on it? Now, with my friends and family pool, I'm not taking 10% cut or anything like that. All of the pool goes to my winner. But once I kind of evolved my approach to my fantasy leagues, I'm starting to realize I'm not making money. This is not my day job, but I can take advantage of things that I've built up as well.
I love that, Mike. And I want to say that I don't think there's anything, I think that you said 2 things that I love in all of that. And one of them was what you said about people that went into retail stores and did what they did. I wasn't even thinking about that because because I literally would never do that. And fortunately for me, I was living in Spain when that whole thing happened, and I didn't even have the opportunity to do that. So I didn't even know that had happened. Like that kind of stuff happened kind of before I really got into it in early 2021. I mean, there was some raids of Target in early 2021 in the US and things like that where Target stopped selling Prism. But I think that was kind of the end of it. But I totally understand now where kind of that negativity comes from. And I think for us to have unpacked that in this conversation is pretty important, because it does make sense why there would be why people would be grouped together. Yeah, that's interesting. The other thing is,
Before you
yeah,
move on, Paul,
yeah.
I'm gonna share something I honestly never even planned on sharing, but this is a safe space. Our listeners are friends and family in my eyes. So part of my stigma is also guilt. When I got back in the hobby, I had a friend who kind of helped me get back in. And he's a full-on scalper, okay? And he's my friend. And I don't say that just in the context of cards. Like this guy, when we lived in Vancouver, would buy Team Canada hockey jerseys from China for $15 each, and he'd stand in the street selling them for $100 each. Like that this is the kind of personality he has. One of the ways I got back into it is he saw that I was selling some of my cards. I was trying to buy a truck at the time, and I had some Pokemon cards and basketball cards that I thought, hey, I can make hundreds of dollars selling these things and put it in my truck fund. So I was doing that through Facebook Marketplace, and he reached out and said, hey man, I didn't realize you like cards. He said, I've got some blaster boxes from the latest release. Are you interested? And I was kind of taken aback. I'm like, oh my God, I never even thought about collecting cards again. And so I said, sure. And he swung by my house, dropped off a couple blasters. I paid double retail sticker without realizing it. I had fun ripping them. I don't blame him for selling them to me because that's what the market price was at the time. And so one day I was in between meetings. I'm in sales, so I'm traveling between my customers' offices, and I swung into Walmart in between meetings, and I'm sitting looking at all the cards, not really knowing the different brands. And I took a picture and I sent it to my friend and I said, hey man, is this set worth anything? Do people like this? Like, is this worth buying? The craziest thing happened. He texted me back and he said, go around the corner right now. I was like, what? So I go around the corner and he's standing there with two of his friends. I was like, what are you guys doing here? And I said, shh, we're just waiting for the restock. And I guess his friends assumed I was kind of their ilk, someone who's stalking the stalking people, stalking meaning following them around, and the stalking people meaning the distributors who were putting the trading cards on the shelves. And within 5 minutes, this lady has a trolley, rolls it up, and starts unboxing the boxes. And the four of us wander over and start like vultures, just picking through, trying to, before she even puts it on the thing. And of course, they know her, so they afterwards. My friend said, well, we wouldn't have done that if they don't want people sifting through their stuff. We would never do that. We want to be courteous, but we know her, and she actually thinks if we grab all the boxes we want and take them right up to the register, she doesn't have to stock the shelf, so she's cool with it. So at the time, I think UFC Prism, it was the inaugural set. And so I got a couple boxes. They each got a few boxes of UFC Prism. And I didn't flip them. I opened them. And I like UFC as a sport. I follow it. So I was excited. I didn't even honestly realize that Prism was the main set. And of course, the rest of those guys, they all just immediately posted them on Facebook Marketplace and sold them for 3-4 times the amount they bought them for. So fast forward to, a month later, again, I'm between meetings at work, and I swing by Walmart, except this time, I'm a little smarter. I kind of know what I'm looking for. And I end up buying basically anything that says Prism. So some football, basketball, UFC, whatever's there, and spent, heck, $500, something ridiculous that I wouldn't want to spend for myself. I go home and I bought the stuff just because they told me that's the stuff to get. Never leave it on the shelves, they say. So I'm sitting there staring at my stockpile. I open up the UFC because I like it. I open up a basketball blaster. And of course, I hit nothing. That's what happens when you're gambling, when you're ripping product. And so I'm sitting there staring at, another $400 worth of product. And I'm like, geez, I regret buying this stuff. I'm just going to sell it. And so I post literally just a picture of all the stuff, $1 on Facebook Marketplace. I said, I bought too much. Need to offload this. And I got all kinds of messages, probably because I put it as $1, and people like, hey man, can I buy this? I'll offer you this much. I'll offer you this much. I'm like, geez, these people are offering me more than I bought it for. And so I accidentally fell into this flipping game because I didn't understand the hobby. I had a friend who was grooming me, for lack of a better word. And later on, when I look back, I didn't give a crap about most of those boxes I bought. And I didn't sell them for what people were offering me more. So I said, sure, come get it, it's yours. And I made money flipping these retail products, and I was one of them. And I don't have anything against you, Paul, but there's something in my mind that puts anybody with financial motivation into the same bucket. And, you not even really thinking about that, kind of makes me realize that, my mind's not in the right place when I'm thinking that way.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing, Mike. I mean, one of the things I wanted to say, the other thing I wanted to say actually goes exactly along with, I think, the whole theme of what you just said. And that is, I admire your master's pool. I admire how you've taken it from, a friends and family thing, and you've built it into like a mini fantasy game, like business, where you get to make business decisions with it. Like you get to decide, you're fully disclosing to everyone at the beginning of the pool what's happening with it, right? Like they know when they're putting money in, what's happening with the money. Like you're going to keep X amount, you're going to decide what to do with all of that. They know, like you're saying, there's some of them going to be prizes, some of them maybe some financial back, maybe Mike will keep some of this for his time, like things like that, right? Like to me, and also, with your story about making money off of the fact that people were willing to offer you more than what you bought the original product for. I admire those things. My entire life, like I consider myself like a really, really good person, but I've never had a negative stigma around making money or having financial gain. Like to me, there's a difference between being immoral and having financial gain, right? So like, I think that like, to me, it's important that I clarify to everyone and to you that like, I don't see making money as a bad thing. Are there things related to making money that happen in the world that are bad things? Yes. But I think I'm one of the few people that publicly, especially in the sports card hobby, says I like to make money. From the same place, I don't believe that making money is a bad thing. I don't believe that you should feel at all guilty about, I'm not saying that you do. I don't feel like you should feel at all guilty or hesitant to talk about your master's pool. I don't think that you should feel at all guilty or hesitant to talk about the story that you just told all of us about making money on those retail products. I mean, there's a difference between someone who's STALKing the person who's STOCKing the shelves. And there's a difference between having the opportunity to buy something like a normal human being would walk into the store and buy something and sell it for more than what you bought it for because someone's willing to pay that. I think that number one can be immoral. I think that number two, the latter, is not. And so I think that there's, let's not, I'm not saying this like to like make anybody feel like I'm trying to be preachy, but I'm just saying like, let's please all try not to assume that because somebody says one thing that they mean all these other things. That's projecting onto somebody else. I don't know. I appreciate that you share the story about making money on those boxes. I mean, I consider myself like to have a very, very high moral compass, like a strong moral compass. I don't feel like you should feel bad about that. I feel like if you tripped an old lady and she was buying the Prism box for her grandson, well, yeah, I feel like crap about that. But I mean, like the fact that you were able to just actually walk into a store, the proverbial you, not you, Mike Lakusta, but like if any of you are able to go buy something and then sell it for more than what you bought it for, why is that bad? Now, if you're being an a-hole to someone and making somebody have a horrible day, and you're stealing or something like that, or you're preventing somebody from doing their job, that's a different thing. So I don't know. I'm very specific on the situation when it comes to these things. I think some people group it all together.
You're right, some people do. And not that I became some esteemed flipper or whatever, but being associated with people who have gave me a bit of an icky feeling, let's say, because even I have a little bit of a resistance accepting, if you can sell it and make more money, that it's okay. I know it's okay, but because it's related to my passion, my hobby, my escape, it just doesn't feel right. Especially with like retail product, it's like you're not putting any thought into it or effort. It's just the hottest thing. At least when you're investing flipping with the Sports Card Strategy Show, you are planning out and executing a play. It's very fantasy GM style. Whereas what was going on at the height of the pandemic just felt like a Black Friday, dirtiness. Like actually, I've got another friend. I don't know why I know all the flippers in the city. I know like two. Another one who he's a collector through and through. I've seen him spend ridiculous money on cards that I'm like, why would you buy that? No thought about flipping investing. So I know for a fact this guy's passionate about the cardboard. But at the same time, he was flipping. He'd go to the stockers and collect the products, sell some of it, open some of it, whatever, as kind of his way to fund his hobby. And this is a guy with a spicy personality, let's say. So someone who maybe has his own morals, and if he sees someone not playing fairly, he'll say something about it and end up in a confrontation. And one morning at a Walmart, there was someone who was not following the flipper etiquette, let's say. So he explained to me that if you show up and you're the only one there, you're lucky. But apparently, even though there's 7 or 8 or 10 Walmarts in the city, whenever that stock happens, the flippers know about it. And they literally would line up. So whoever's there first gets to stand first in line. So if this guy shows up an hour before stocking, he gets first picks. And apparently the etiquette was you could basically pick one box, and then the next guy gets a box, and the next guy whatever. And then once it circles back to you, you get to pick second. So it's this fair way of getting product from the stalker. And apparently some guy who wasn't part of the regular circles was there and wasn't following the etiquette, just kind of barged right up and opened the box and grabbed 2 armfuls of product and started walking away. And the rest of the flippers were like, hey man, there's a system to this. And some yelling ensued. And my friend with the spicy personality, I'm sure he was one of the loudest ones. And at one point he turned away, and the guy who wasn't following the etiquette punched him in the back of the head and actually full on knocked him out. And he hit the floor. They called the police. This guy ran away. It was this big ordeal. And that is the kind of thing I think about when it comes to flipping. I don't think about people who are playing a fantasy league. I don't think about people who are participating in the hobby in the way they feel fulfillment. I just think of these dirty situations that I've encountered personally.
Interesting. Yeah, I could see that. I could see why we've needed to unpack this because, for those of you who don't know, when you go to nooffseason.com or listen to the Sports Card Strategy Show, it's all about buying singles. It's all about buying singles from people on eBay. And like Mike said, having reason to believe that would increase in value over at a particular time and with the strategy of selling it at that particular time, which is totally different than what Mike's talking about. But because it's in the same hobby, it's in the same, and this is an industry. There's a lot of money in this industry. There are people that are only hobbyists, and I think Mike does a great job representing that faction. And like, from my perspective, there are people that just love sports. They just love sports cards. They love following. Maybe some of them bet. Maybe some of them play fantasy sports. I think when the big buzz phrase since 2021, it's been a long time since people have been saying this, is 10x the hobby. How are we going to 10x the hobby? All this stuff. So I just kind of laugh at that. But I mean, really, the real answer is that like just actual regular sports fans are getting into the hobby. I know that there's TCG and there's all sorts of other things that are not related to sports that are in the hobby, but I'm a sports guy. I don't do TCG or anything like that. So I'm just going to speak to the sports side. As more and more just regular sports fans with disposable income get into the hobby, they will not understand this conversation. Like they will not understand this conversation. They're a different quote unquote generation of new hobbyist that will just be like, oh, well, what's this Joe Burrow card? And they won't understand that that's very different than a contender's rookie ticket auto. They won't understand that a score auto is different than a contender's rookie ticket auto. And that's what we do at nooffseason.com. We help people understand those differences so that they don't get taken advantage of. And so I think that in our own way, Mike, you and I each sort of try to be like a good steward for the hobby. It's just kind of ironic that I would say that about myself when I also say that I help people make money. Right. But I think that now that we've kind of unpacked this, like nobody, neither you nor I, or I don't think anyone out there in the audience wants anyone to have a bad experience in the hobby, feel like they were taken advantage of, feel like they were duped or somebody sniped them or whatever it is. And certainly nobody wants to get physically assaulted. I mean, that's just a whole other thing. I could see definitely where you're coming from with that story. And I think everybody wants to feel the escapism in their own way. So I like that you and I have teamed up to create this kind of content because you've used this phrase, like we challenge each other, but in a good way and respect what each other does. And I like to talk to you to understand. You say art a lot. And I'm glad that you do, because when I first started following a lot of hobby content back in 2021, I was like, oh yeah, I get that. Like I resonated with like the art side of it. Right. And I know I've heard a lot of Fondling Cardboard episodes where you talk about the artwork behind a card and more than just the personal story behind it. I think my thing is everybody's going to have a personal story. I get that. So if you want to go with what you said early on in the conversation, I just like cards. Cool. That's your why. That's great. You just like cards. No judgment. Like that's you have something in your life has led you to just love cards and decide who you want to collect, and that's it. And that's cool. So-and-so was your favorite player. You watched so-and-so team with your grandma or grandpa growing up. Great. Love that. I still want you to not spend money on stuff that you don't have a reason to spend the money on. Just make sure you have a reason. That's just kind of like the responsibility in my brain as like a father and like a husband is like, just be responsible with your money. Don't just go blow it on everything.
Being responsible with your money is very important because we have this idealist mindset when I say we, I mean collectors, that in the hobby, if we hypothetically had limitless spending money, we would treat the cards just as this artwork. We would accumulate them and keep them forever. But they've become so expensive that there's only select few collectors that can be like that. Shine, who owns the Luka 1 of 1 and all the Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant patch autos, a guy like that can approach the hobby that way. But 99.999% of us, we can't. We have to understand that there is financial value attached to these. They are financial instruments. A quick sidebar just to wrap up what we're talking about with your Scotty Scheffler card and Sports Illustrated for Kids. I do think you should sell your Scotty card. Unless it's a mantelpiece and it's something you want to put on display forever. If I had it, maybe I would feel that way. But for you, you have this mindset that you want to try and make some money. Now's the perfect time. Sell it at Masters. Hopefully he wins again. Hopefully he stays world number 1. Hopefully someone else can receive that card. You can make some money on it and they either keep it forever or Scotty just continues on his trajectory and they can make some money on it. So sell your card. Sports Illustrated for Kids, if they were to die as a brand, maybe that will help. And I think that it has, even if in this modern day and age, Sports Illustrated for Kids are treated gently and graded and whatever, the brand itself is lucky because that was the first ever Tiger Woods card. And Tiger Woods brings this esteem to it. It brings legitimacy to the Sports Illustrated for Kids brand as a collectible trading card. And so I 100%, I don't know about T206, like I said, because T206 dumped into the ocean. They're so rare, blah, blah, blah. But maybe it's like a Sports King style of card, from a kid's product, chewing gum. They look cool, nice colors, simplistic. Collectors like simple designs, not elegant, but simple. And, maybe someday Sports Illustrated for Kids can be looked on just like tobacco, chewing gum type cards, not a conventional pack pulled card, but still valuable nonetheless. And, if I were to draw a parallel to the 2024 golf cards, Upper Deck, they, didn't include Scotty Scheffler. Is the set going to carry that weight if Scotty becomes a superstar? Maybe not. They're really pushing young guns right now. Not that I dislike young guns as a subset. It's huge for hockey, but in golf, they kind of missed the mark because Tiger Woods never got a young gun. Young guns were first introduced in golf in 2001. Most people don't know that because there's only 15 or 20 young guns cards. There's a Matt Kuchar. There's I don't even remember the names. That's why they're not iconic. That was Tiger Woods' rookie year for Upper Deck Sports Cards. If they made a Tiger Woods Young Gun, a totally different story. Maybe the Young Guns could have been what I just described about the Sports Illustrated for kids, but I don't think so. Just to wrap up, Paul, nobody can hold a card forever. Someday we will all be 6 feet under. During our time in the hobby, we are curators of the cards for the life of that piece of cardboard. And so if I choose to hold that cardboard for my whole life and pass it on to my kids and they decide what to do with it next, so be it. If you decide to hold on to it for 6 months and you wait for the sports season to start and pass it on to another collector, at the end of the day, that's okay. We're all stewards of the cardboard. We can all do it the way we like to do it.
I totally agree. And I think I want everybody out there to give yourself permission to not feel bad or like you failed in any way if you do sell a card that you love, or if you do, pass something on to your kids that they don't love the way that you loved. I think like I would understand and I would empathize with the fact that like there would be some disappointment. But I just don't want anyone to feel bad about themselves or like a failure if they have to sell something that they love for a reason in their life, for whatever that reason might be, to get money for it. Or if someone that they think they're going to pass down these collectibles to does that. Because the reality is that you all at that point, regardless of how many cards you have, regardless of how much you sell them for, you would have had the enjoyment having something and then still allowing either yourself or somebody else in your life to benefit from that monetarily. And chances are they're going to need that money for something that's important in their life. And that's a good thing, because you can't go to the movies and really enjoy a movie and then 6 months after you watch that movie, get $50 back for watching that movie. We are in a hobby that we should all feel grateful to be in, where we can build up this knowledge to enjoy something and also be able to sell it to somebody else for around the same price or maybe even more than what we bought it for. And I just don't want anyone feeling bad or guilty about that. I mean, if you're not harming someone in the process, I just don't think that there's anything that you should feel bad about. And I just want everybody to know, for the record, like, I support all the collectors out there. I get it. I've made it clear on this show many, many times, on the Sports Card Strategy Show and on Fondling Cardboard. I'm not a collector. I don't PC anything. We'll talk more about that at a future date. I look forward to it. But I love all you out there, Mike. I especially love you. I appreciate your time, man.
Right on, Paul. Thanks a lot, man. I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation. I always like talking to Paul. Even with our differences, we always find a way to get to the bottom of it. I found it funny that Paul's speculation that I made money from the Masters pool didn't age well for me, as I shared at the beginning of this episode, because there are some cool lessons I learned and the community loved the pool, but I think I demonstrated it really wasn't a good way to make money. But I did get to offload some cards. When I talk about margin and negative 66%, at the end of the day, that kind of means that I offloaded the cards at, 60 cents on the dollar, something like that. And that's not terrible once you factor in the fact that I had to pay for so many different shipping, stamps, things like that. And the base cards, that's the biggest thing. I mean, it's only $21, but even some of those cards that are worth $10, 20, 40, 50, it takes a lot of effort to go through and sell them. Who am I kidding? I guess if I just package it all up, other than the base cards, and I sent anything else, anything that's serial numbered or whatever, off to a consigner, let's say anything $10 and up, I would have made 60, 70, 80% of comps. So yeah, I'll be a bit smarter about it with the next one. But before we sign off, I did tease a lot for next episode already, but here I'll give you a little spoiler. We are going to be sharing some conversation about Scotty Scheffler from the Stacking Slabs podcast, where Nick and Brett had a great conversation about golf cards. And so I asked Brett, do you mind if I just share that on the pod? So it'll be a few minutes of that. And then the First Cut podcast, they had something just so eye-opening and so clear and concise that I'm going to share an awesome clip from there as well. To make sure that you catch that episode on Spotify, Make sure you follow Fondling Cardboard on Apple Podcasts, wherever it is. Become a subscriber, follower, whatever. It doesn't cost you anything. Just click a button. And on my little app, I'm seeing the numbers of followers shooting up. I'm seeing more people in the community tuning into the pod. Really appreciate all of you guys, and I can't wait to see you next week.
Ridiculous golf card collector.